fellow primates. Today I'm going to be relating autoethnographically to two concepts from Professor Barrie Thorne's book, Gender Play. These two concepts are agency of children to socialize themselves and more mixing in neighborhoods. Thorne states in her book, I never saw Sherry, a fifth grader, play in the organized sports where boys predominated, but she told me that she often played soccer with boys in her neighborhood. This supports my personal observations and experiences. So the first thing I think we need to do is give you a little context and background in order to tell the story in relation to these concepts. As you can see, I never fit the dominant binary narrative, not in school nor in my neighborhood, and was frequently mistook for male by both teachers and peers. On more than one occasion, I was even chased out of the girls' bathroom and got in trouble for using the boys' bathroom. I was quite fortunate in that my mother, not adhering to dominant narrative herself or ever conforming to it herself, raised me to be exactly who I thought I was. I was never forced into girl-boy colors, girl-boy clothes, girl-boy toys, nor was I forced into binary domestic roles around the house. I attended Edison Elementary for 2 years, and what you're seeing are pictures that I pulled up off Google Earth. It didn't look like this back then. It was all woods, and woods that led up to the Wichita Mountains. And there's a wild creek that you can't see here that became a river when it rained. Back behind the house I lived in, that house that you see there is the house I lived in for those 2 years, and it was just a wild countryside, none of this domestication. And when I say fortunate, I don't mean because the school was especially liberal. It was not by any means. I mean fortunate because there was a particular teacher there who was surprisingly, exceptionally liberal. And this is the teacher that I will be talking about in comparison to one other teacher. His name was retired Master Sergeant Wilson, and we called him Master Sergeant Wilson. This is, of course, not a photograph of Master Sergeant Wilson, but it is the closest I could find to represent him. He did have a medium-cut fro, graying at the temples and around the forehead, and he typically wore a jean jacket over a dress shirt, button-up dress shirt with a tie. More surprising for it being a predominantly white or mixed ethnicity school was the fact that he was not white. Master Sergeant Wilson never separated us by sex. What I mean when I say sex is genitalia. He didn't do it in the hallway when we lined up for lunch. He didn't do it when he took us out every day, out into those woods that are no longer there, and the wilderness and the river. He let us go and explore and be who we were. He taught us about wildlife outside in the wild. In the class, we had wall-to-wall aquariums of red-bellied piranha, red tiger oscars, and African cichlids. We ate all kinds of insects, even chocolate-covered grasshoppers and mayfly burgers, and we tried African bushmeat. In his class, like at home, all I ever was an adventurer and an explorer. That's all any of us in his class ever were. I don't recall genitalia and gender roles that go with that birth genitalia ever coming into play in his class. That was third grade, the only class I ever got an A in elementary school. Then I went to Miss Pepple's class for fourth grade, where it was always boy this and girl that. She didn't separate us in the classroom by genitalia, but when it came to everything else, we were lined up and separated. I remember I was way out on the outfield at recess one time, which is where I usually was, and there were a mix of us, females and males, and we're all playing kickball, and we did a lot at school. and it was too far out for the teachers to walk. They didn't want to walk all the way out there, so we were kind of left alone to do our own socializing. And I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and I'd held it so long, and the exciting game, and I ran all the way from the outfield, all the way through the classroom, and I got into the hall, and I knew I was not going to make it to the other end of the hall to the girls' bathroom. And the boys' bathroom was right there, so I darted for it, right? And just as I was going in, Miss Pepple busted me, and she made me walk all the way back out to the outfield and all the way back in to get to the bathroom. And before I ever even got so far as the boys' bathroom, I peed my pants right there. And she wanted to prove that I could have held it long enough to go all the way down the hall to the girls' bathroom. But I got in trouble for that a lot at school, all through elementary. I will never forget Miss Pebble, not because she was another Master Sergeant Wilson kind of teacher, but because she humiliated me. Now, back to us kids that were out on the backfield where we knew we'd be left alone. We governed ourselves. We got in fights. We pushed. We pulled. We poked. Just like Thorne talks about in intentional self-socialization, right? In gender play, we governed ourselves. And what was really interesting was that if you looked at the infield where all the playground stuff was, where most of the kids hung out, you saw that separation. Boys would be doing the monkey bars and girls would be on the merry-go-round or the swings, and you saw that separation. But the group that was out on the outfield, which by the way were the group from the block, right? We were all the group from the block, and that meant that we also hung together in our neighborhood. The same people I was out there poking and pushing and punching sometimes out on that outfield, they were also the people that I was hanging with in the neighborhood. There was never a separation of genitalia assignment, right? There was never, the teasing, you're such a sissy, or, oh, look, you're with the girls, or, oh, look, you're with the boys. There was never any of that. It was just, who was the toughest, who was the fastest, who was the smartest. One minute I'm on the roof throwing water balloons at passing cars with Lionel, and the next minute I'm down in the water hole back in the back river fishing for crawdad with KK. Or all of us, male and female, are in the kitchen learning to make fry bread and pie crust with my mother. But then the minute we go back to school to Miss Pepple's classroom, and it wasn't just Miss Pepple, it was all the other grades. And that's another thing. So Master Sergeant Wilson was also the only male teacher, not only the only black-skinned teacher, but also the only male teacher. And all the other teachers, they did the lines by male and female. They cared who used what bathroom. And when they governed the upper front areas, because there was always a teacher on patrol, they just didn't want to go to the outfield. They governed those groups. They oversaw those groups walking across the playground. So we took our agency decisively and we exercised it strategically. And we socialized ourselves the way we wanted to be socialized. We only adhered to the separation of male and female inside the classroom, where they used 1-inch boards with holes in them to literally beat the hell out of us if we did not conform.